Rolling, ride.
I was glad to see Nate at least is going to put Josh Allen in this year.
He just held on to him last year.
Picked up two of the best quarterbacks and just benched them so nobody else could get them.
That's wrong.
So
Wham. Bunch of little whining crybabies around here. So just so you guys know, when we recorded this podcast, it is the day of NFL start season. So we got a bunch of fantasy football.
This is now a fantasy football update podcast.
Fantasy football follies, because these guys are horrible. I mean, what the heck?
What's the most you can do in a league, I wonder?
What do you mean most you can do in a league?
Like
How?
most people?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen, on average, everybody does 12 guys in a league. That way the teams are fair and you're not.
I'm not saying average. What's the most you can do?
I don't know that question, honestly.
Okay. That was the question. That was all I wanted an answer to.
What do you mean the most? The most people you can have on your roster?
No, that you could have in a fantasy league.
People playing.
Yeah.
Okay. I bet you it's quite a few. I mean, you would run out. You wouldn't have if the more you had, the worse your teams would be.
Your bench guys are going to be all your third string.
Yeah, but that would mean you'd have to know your football better, because you'd have to know second string guys and stuff like that, or guys that don't play very well. So if you had 30 people you wouldn't have. I mean, if you had more than 36, then you got more than. You don't even have everyone a quarterback. So I wouldn't think you could go more than 36.
Well, and at that point, you can make league rules different on the amount of players you have per team.
Yeah.
Or, spots. So
I don't know. I don't know why we're talking about this fantasy football stuff, because these guys suck at it. I'm just telling you.
You can't even do more than 14. All right, well, that probably ruins my idea.
You can't say we suck at it.
I was going to have a raised podcast.
No, I'm
fantasy league.
He ain't
Yeah,
good.
no, he's horrible.
Huh?
that would be sweet.
What's been
Whatever.
top 3 every year?
Yeah. All right. So did we decide what our topic are we going to talk
You
about?
were literally the
getting
worst.
into this? Are we going to? I know we have the question the guy just asked about the deer situation, but that's just a topic. I think that's a what would you do?
I do too.
So are we going with how do we get into this?
Sure.
I believe that.
I'm pulling up the story, so yeah, you can do that one.
Okay. We ready?
Ready.
Well, sorry for that. If you guys have been listening for the last 2 or 3 minutes, it's all been all about fantasy football. So in case you have a fantasy football league, you might want to listen to the beginning of this podcast before it actually starts. And don't do anything that these guys recommend, because they're bad. I'm just telling you. So, all right. But welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, and I'm joined today. I'm David Holder, by the way, from Raised Hunting, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton Holder, my sons. Not my special guests. They are special guests. Very special. So, and behind the camera today is Nick. We'll introduce Nick, because Nick just went and helped me cut some rub trees, and we had some fun. Because who is?
Jeremy Rubsick.
Jeremy Rubsick's going to give you crap?
He always finds a way to do it.
Well, he does. Go ahead, Jeremy. Give him crap, but
as Trump would say, believe me, there's a lot of subject material there.
Well, you guys are going to, I don't know, did you put that post that we just did out there on TikTok or Instagram, or the one that we just did about the rub trees to help people know what size rub tree they should get?
He's going to have to do the beep in it, dang-a-lang.
I don't care.
Because your mouth.
It was one of the best ever. If they get to put it in there,
Something
you guys.
about black pine.
No, something similar, though.
John Armin was texting me about that.
I know he was.
No, I have a tree out there that's like this big
around.
around.
To get it.
I know. I said we were talking about it on the podcast.
I have a tree out there that's like that big around. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big tree. And then he picked one that's like this big around. And I just told people the honest truth. I said, what you want to do is, if you're looking for, how do you know what size tree to get? You just go by size. And I have a great big one.
Unfortunately for you, I got dad's genetics. You got mom's.
I can't even use the one that I used in the video. I said, yeah, go with that, but I don't need to compensate. But that one just shut me down pretty good.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, the next one that we pulled out there had bent nail syndrome, right? Like kind of crooked.
That's a Warren.
How would you know?
I don't. I'm just assuming how weird you are.
So anyhow, guys, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking whitetails a little bit. We're going to be talking a little bit about everything. It's just everyone's like getting excited around here. Scents are going. You guys are awesome as far as commenting and reviews and everything. But the biggest one is what we're noticing is everyone that's listening to the podcast is commenting on the scents and the knocks and everything. Dog chews will be the next one that our whole canine line will, but we just haven't started pushing it yet really hard, but it's coming.
Well, so it's there already.
It's there, but
there. If you would like some of the canine stuff or have questions, just let us know. We're not waiting to release it. We just are a little spread out here.
Yeah.
So if you don't see the 77 ads that you get hit with our knocks and our scents and everything else, that is the reason why, because we haven't done them yet.
Well, while we're talking about it, because it's Dan, like this weekend, so just for you guys that are like us, you're like excited and some kind of hunting season opens. Ours was dove season, and Easton and I went with some friends, and he took his girlfriend Hannah and I took Karen, and everyone killed a dove. It was a lot of fun, but three of us limited out, which is the first time we've done that in a long time. Dan and Christo were retrieving birds for us, and it wore my poor 9-year-old lab out. I mean, he's just getting older, and it wore him out. We bring him home, and I'm like worried about him recovering because it just takes so long. Well, one of the products that we have in that line is a tincture. It's basically canine flavin is what it's called. We give Dan a drop of that. It's like a whole dropper full, and he just takes it orally. And it's like night and day. By the next morning, the dog is walking normal, and
which typically he is like, ew.
Yeah, like he doesn't want to get up, period.
Because he gets super, super stiff.
Yep. So if you guys have a dog, whether it's a sport dog, whether it's just a house dog, but they're suffering from, just aches and pains as they get older, or they've torn something or things like that, this kind of stuff can help tremendously, and it's all natural. There's no doctor prescribed stuff in this, no medication, so you don't have any long-term side effects. So check out the Canine Scent.
Ingredients would be a better.
I don't know all the official ingredients.
No artificial.
No artificial. I thought you said official ingredients. I didn't hear what he said.
Artificial.
Shut up, Easton.
Because the doctors aren't really the ones making there's no doctor stuff in it. Well, it's because the doctors aren't the ones.
People, I guarantee you, they know what I meant.
Okay.
These guys are a pain in my butt.
You would never guess that this group of three guys right here are, not to tout, but really freaking good salesmen. Because that was one of the worst pitches I've ever heard in my life. Ever.
I believe that you folks will support me and say we knew exactly what your dad meant, so you guys can just
or you don't have to be that good of a salesman if it's that good of a product. Because we have an example now that we'll be able to show of using this testing it on a horse.
Mm-hmm. She's sending me videos right now.
A horse that was supposed to be getting put down after 3 weeks of this stuff. The vet says, "I don't know what you did to this horse, but it's fine."
Now, see, the way you just made that sound was you were going to put a horse down after giving the product to him 3 weeks later.
No, that would only be if you
take it that way.
Are dyslexic and you flipped them.
He clearly stated the horse was supposed to be put down, and then after 3 weeks of using this stuff, the vet said, "I don't know what you did, but it's golden."
He paused in there long enough that it did not sound like that.
Can we, for the love of God, get
it's
going?
on video. We'll go back and look at it.
Oh, yeah.
We should get started with the podcast.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
You're not listening today.
Include the podcast people now?
For once?
Include them?
Well, all of our comments?
Go for it.
Well, I haven't been.
You got a whole bunch.
Given a chance to speak yet, so.
Well, that's what we were trying to do.
Are you done?
For now.
It's not me you're interrupting.
He looks like
them.
a little kid over there.
Brian Sheffield, 7037. He says, "Congrats to all on your Western hunt success. Thank you for sharing Easton's portion. It goes to show that as hunters, we do care about the animals that we harvest. Keep up the good work." Devo Yoder, 5631. It's a great podcast. Sounds like a ton of fun out west. Congrats, everyone. Also proud of you, Easton. You did the right thing. Things happen. We are all human. Keep your head up. William Ayers, SP4TT. Another great episode, guys. Great job, Easton. Doing the right thing is always the best, even if it's the hard thing to do. My boy and I just got our buck junkie in the mail. God bless you guys. James Mass 9060. Seen the pictures on Facebook and was so excited to hear Tuesday's podcast. Keep it up. The videos keep getting better and better.
Oh, yeah.
B&B Custom Game Calls. He says, I still stand with my comment on Facebook. Takes a hell of a hunter to show how that hunt actually happened, how it all played out. Good, bad, doesn't matter. True hunter will show true facts of what actually happened. My hat's off to you, brother. Not a lot of people would have done that. Much respect, Michael Hawk.
You the man.
Eric Robards, 1209. Another great one, guys. Can't wait for my Wyoming antelope hunt in 2025.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Jeremy Rupsick. Nick is a moron.
Yeah.
Agreed.
No way.
Great stories, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's reality when it comes to hunting. I would never take a Texas heart shot. I think it's unethical. I want to see Warren and David Gritty video.
Oh, yes.
Also,
I got to vote.
Easton, when are the next
What
set
is
of
the Gritty
success
video?
stories
Hold on.
coming from the viewers? Also, Easton, what are the next set of success stories coming from the viewers? Elk hunts, antelope hunts, deer hunts, turkey hunts, etc.
Hey, you just chill. That was one of my announcements today.
He said a couple weeks until the season opens. David Harrison, 9731. Feel like he's been a little under the radar lately, but he
hasn't. He's been emailing me personally now.
Oh, so he's too cool for the rest of us, huh?
Easton does his own podcast after hours.
do.
I guess. I'll buy shirts.
Hey guys, it's Easton. I'm at my desk, and they don't know I'm on here with you.
He's on one today.
It's that hydrogen water.
It's got to be. Are you sure it's just
Shit
hydrogen?
works.
It's helium, too.
Hydrogen.
Inflates your brain.
A
on
little
the
bit
wrong
of
parts.
cocaine on the side.
I'll buy shirts to replace my entire wardrobe, guys.
That's what he was asking me about. I'm like,
Moose
okay,
Hunt
I'm
is
working
on
on it.
before I die list, but the shirts need to be the big boy size. I'm a small fella. Love listening and watching you guys. Tom Pummel, 9307. Great podcast. I'm excited for bow season here in Ohio. My target buck, Girth Brooks.
I like that.
Finally
Oh
showed
my
back
God.
up. It's
Girth, bro. That was not a typo, right?
I think it's intentional, and that's freaking genius.
That's awesome.
Only thing he could have done different was name him Girth Bucks.
Yeah.
But that's freaking
No,
good.
Girth Brooks
I think
is
Tom
perfect.
is new, too, so I'm glad to see a Tom Pummel on here.
Did you leave
That's
a
good.
storage unit open or something this morning?
No.
All right.
Maybe we need to start doing that as best deer names. That's good. Jake DeLee, bought Buck Junkie. Been waiting to start a rub, and now I haven't had any time to get a rub set up. But David, I'll be needing to order another shirt. I still wear the gray quarter zip you guys put out a few years ago when you started selling the pink arrow wraps, but my T-shirts got a little tight on me. I did wear it at the hospital when we had our third kid, but now it's a little tighter. But now it's a little tighter. Kid, but now she's a little tighter than it is 2 years ago. Gene Gunther,
hard getting that
4325.
baby fat off after labor, for you guys.
Great episode again this week. One thing I'd like to do is hunt antelope, but going to be a hole after going through the health issue I did this past fall and winter. I did order the Raised Knox last week and a T-shirt, but waiting for the ones I ordered to be back in stock. Can't wait for the
they
next
went out.
episode.
I bet they did.
Adam Schronk, 3620, says Buck Junkie showed up today. Tree's going in tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
And then Jake Rotman, 7803, he said, I thought you guys had a tracking dog. Does he not going to get to go antelope hunting? ?
That was actually
We're
his
irritated
first
by that.
track ever. Dan's first track ever was an antelope.
But we did not take.
We didn't take 'em.
either of the dogs. There, where we go to, also has a lot of other dogs there. So when we're not hunting and stuff, it's not the easiest to leave them somewhere because we try to keep our dogs separated.
Yeah,
pretty
those
well
are
from-
working dogs, and they don't get along with most
Yeah.
other dogs.
So that's why we didn't take them. But all right, well, I do have a story today. It is not necessarily just a success story, but it is from one of our good friends. It's a little more heartfelt, a little lengthier, but I purposely did not read in depth on this because I have not shared it with these guys either. Because this is a really cool story, and it'll probably hit home with a lot of you guys. But with that being said, for any new listeners, anybody from last year, we are officially getting into hunting season, whether yours is open yet or not, or it's getting close. And so with that being said, we're going to do the same thing as last year. I'm not entirely sure we may just start adding to the whole freaking wall. I don't know. But send us your pictures and send us your story of success stories or even failed stories, something that was cool that happened. I would say preferably, just for the sake of kind of staying up to date, wait. Like, I know if you had great stories and stuff last year, you could send those as well. But for you guys that are thinking of new ones, like, get into your season. Let's hear how your current season is going, and successes and stuff like that. Last thing before I read this, everybody's been asking for different types of apparel. I am going to be putting out, specifically for the podcast guys, and ladies, if we have any on here, a couple different designs of shirts that are not going to be found on our site or anywhere else. So you guys can vote on them. We can determine which ones we all want as a group, and we'll do pre-orders for them, and so that we can all get a cool Raised Hunting Podcast shirt, and everybody can rep the podcast crew. So, without further ado, this one is from our boy. If anybody needs strings, this is from Louis Magnolias. I always say his name wrong. But Dominant Strands is the strings that he does. But he's become a pretty good friend of ours, and this is about him and his brother. Here's a story about the bond between two brothers. The bond not only by blood, but through hundreds of hours spent together in the deer woods. We all have that one special partner, mentor, relative, or friend in our lives. Let this story of personal reflection, a first-hand account of loss, be a reminder that hunting is about far more than time in the woods. It's about sharing the memories you make with the ones you love the most. This is a quote. I remember growing up how some families were known for certain things around my hometown. My family, we were known for hunting, specifically bow hunting. It's one of those things that we just did. Nobody pushed us to do it. I have hunted for over half of my life, and I can remember every deer I have ever taken. Even more than that, I remember the ones I haven't for one reason or another. The one that stands out the most happened this last year in the fall of 2016. I can honestly tell you that it will likely remain the most memorable for the rest of my life. You see, I lost my brother to pneumonia in April of that year. I didn't, however, lose a brother. I lost my hunting companion and my best friend. It was pretty common as we were growing up for the two of us to be ultra competitive at just about anything. You see, we were pretty close in age, only separated by 3 years. However, as we grew older, that competition became the root of a relationship that would bind us together. I almost never set foot in the timber without my brother knowing about it, and the same went for him. As cell phones came into the picture, we began to text each other from the stand with constant updates on deer movements. Many times we were only hundreds of yards apart on the same property. Of course, there was still some friendly rivalry and even a little teasing that would occur about who shot the smallest deer. However, there was always one thing that I could count on. Once I had shot, he would be the first person to call me and help me retrieve my buck. As this deer season approached, I found myself not really wanting to hunt how I was supposed to. So this would be after his brother had passed away in the spring. As this deer season approached, I found myself not really wanting to hunt. How was I supposed to go into the timber without my brother? Finally, as the weeks went by, with some pressure from family and friends alike, I went hunting. Then came the phone call from my sister-in-law. She had some hunting stuff of my brother's she wanted me to have. When I brought it home and went through it, I realized it contained his scent-proof clothing. I decided that I would wear it the next time I went. Fast forward a few weeks, and I go again. The rut is beginning to come in, and the deer are starting to be aggressive. It was a rainy morning, and a cool front was coming in. I was soaked to the bone and about ready to give up when something made me just give it 15 more minutes. All of a sudden, a young buck comes walking through working a rub line. As I watch him, I notice a larger-bodied deer on the far hillside. It didn't take long for him to dispatch the youngster, and he turned to go away from me. I thought now or never. I gave him an aggressive grunt. He turned and immediately came up the hill like a man on a mission. It couldn't have worked out any better. 30 yards, quartered away, he didn't make it 40 yards from where I shot him. I watched him go down in a heap. I had watched many deer do this over the years, but this one was different. Immediately, my hand went for my pocket. I had time to make the phone call. As I pulled the phone from my pocket, it hit me. He wouldn't answer the call. I shed several tears over the next few minutes. When the feeling of despair finally subsided, I realized that he wasn't with me physically, he was with me spiritually. He was the reason I had stayed 15 more minutes, and he would always be there on every hunt in the memories he left me with. He is always there in the memories I continue to make, as well as I pass down a love for nature to my son, as well as his. I am thankful that I had every memory I have ever had in the woods with him, because that is my healing, my place to be with my brother. Boom.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Yeah, that is.
That's a pretty cool story. I mean, it's a pretty sad story, but it's also probably a pretty common story. Whether it's a brother or father or grandfather or wife, I mean.
I don't think that I had never gotten to read that. We got to meet Lewis in Illinois, right? Yeah, that was in Illinois. And you can tell when you talk to him that he has that fire of, like, the passion for hunting. Definitely seems to still be there, if not more so now. And he had explained, he just touched on it a little bit, that some of the stuff he'd gone through with his brother and everything. And to me, it sounded like I don't know how you're supposed to come back from that, especially when they've been there for your entire life and done everything together. But whatever he's done, it seems as though I think that's a great note for people, that he went through probably one of the hardest things you could ever go through, just as a person, especially if you have siblings, and he turned it around for better, and can hang his hat on that, even though it isn't the choice that he would like to have. He's still getting to do what him and his brother both love. So I think that's pretty impressive, that he was able to pick himself up from that, let alone build a freaking string company where he's building some of the best strings there are out there. So.
Yeah, hats off to you, Lewis, for that story, and for hopefully many more to come. I mean, and it sounds like he has kids and his brother had kids, so there's going to be a connection there forever.
Yep, for sure.
Makes badass strings, too. So, if you need strings, dominant strands.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, we are into, this is not to be, we're going to cruise on the pod, on the topic now. So, we're switching modes here, switching our, I think everybody's down a little bit after that one, so we're good. We appreciate you sending it in, Lewis, and we're going to get into how we got into this, right?
Yeah, and I wish I had saved I did not save their comment. They wrote in, and so again, we take a lot of your guys' comments and we try to compile them, and sometimes I write them down. I think I read this one when I was driving, is why I didn't end up writing it down. So sometimes I'll speak it into my phone or whatever so I don't forget. But someone had wrote in and said, very interested in getting into the outdoor industry, and I would like to know, you guys seem to be around, and I mean, it was a huge compliment from this person that were someone they looked up to, and they wanted to know, how did we get into this, and where did it all start? And so I'd said, hey, that would be, instead of me personally answering, because that's not the only person that's asked that question. We get a lot of questions. So I thought I'd send a text to these guys and said, hey, what if we did this as a topic? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, and I mean, I guess there's multiple ways to go about this. I mean, the very beginning for me comes before all this before there was computers, before there was cell phones and all that stuff. But I don't think it's that way anymore, meaning I got my way into the outdoor industry by fluke luck. That's all it was. I was at a trade show, walking through a trade show, just like Harrisburg, where you guys, if you go to that, or Deerfest in Wisconsin, or Big Bucks of I think Iowa Deer Classic, but there's Alabama shows. Has any kind of those trade shows. Just walking through, and I walked through and I bought a couple calls from a Primos vendor there. And I think I bought a DVD. I talked to the guy a little bit about elk hunting. This was in Montana. This would have been 2001, something like that. So about 23, 4 years ago. And that was it. I walked away. And so I said, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the video. And I took off. And Mom was there. She goes, sometimes when we go to these things, her and I would split up because she wants to go visit with the dog things and stuff like that. And so we weren't together, but we were together. And so next thing I know, here she comes and she's like, hey, have you been over to the Primos booth? And I said, yeah, I had a bag. And she says, well, the guy wants you to come back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she says, well, I talked to him and was telling him about some of your elk success and stuff. And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, he just said he'd like for you to come back. So I walked back over and I talked to the gentleman and tell him, I don't know what's going on. Anyhow, he brought up the word pro staffer. And I was like, I don't know what a pro staffer is. I have no clue. Never heard of it. Never sought to be one or anything like that. And so he describes to me that it would be doing what he was doing that day. You would go to these trade shows and stand there and help promote products. And I was like, oh, okay. I think I could do that. I could do that for Primos with no problem because I was living by their calls and stuff. And so anyhow, a few phone calls later, I meet Jim Horn, the gentleman that I was talking to there. I can't remember his last name, but his name was David. He was out of Washington, and he had come all the way from Washington to Montana, is why he was telling me that they needed someone in that Montana-Wyoming area. So anyhow, long story short, Jim Horn calls me on the phone, who was the regional, over all the pro staffers, and says, I understand you might be interested in pro staff position. I go through the whole conversation with him again. He says, well, the way this works is I interview you, and then Will Primos will actually interview you. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyhow, we go through this with Jim, and he says, yeah, I think I'm going to turn you over to Will. And I said, all right. Well, next thing I know, before I talk to Will, they tell me I got to fill out. I mean, there was like 3 resumes to fill out. I mean, it was extensive. I always joke that it was more extensive to get on the pro staff with Primos at that time than it was to get on the fire department in Great Falls. Because what they ended up doing is contacting me and telling me I need to videotape myself blowing calls, blowing different, and you had to be proficient in at least 3 different species. So I had whitetails, which is not a big calling deal. I was doing some predator, but elk were my big one and turkey was the other one. And so anyhow, so I got to go do all this. Mom films me. We go to the church. That's the only place we know where we can like have no backdrop and that kind of thing, and send all this in. And like a month or 2 goes by and I don't hear anything. So now I'm thinking they didn't pick me, whatever. And you might remember this. I don't know if you remember it or not, but the phone rings one day. Again, no cell phones back then, or they weren't common. We still had a house phone. I remember
because I answered.
Yeah, and Warren answers the phone, and all I remember Warren saying is, Dad, it's for you, but I can't understand this guy. And I was like, okay. And I answer the phone, and hello, David. This is Will Primos. And I was like, oh, how are you? I'm finally hearing from them. And I was like, well, maybe.
Sorry about my son.
Yeah, I don't know if he heard that comment or not, but he was just super nice. And we talked for a few minutes, and I thought, okay, maybe is he calling to tell me the letdown, hey, sorry, or whatever. And just for you guys that are listening, this was not like a big paid thing. This wasn't like you got to get rid of matter of fact, part of the prerequisite is you had to show them your full-time job. This was just something you would do on the side. And anyhow, long story short, he says, we'd like to offer you a position. And I was like, great. And so that started my introduction into the outdoor industry of doing anything. Started as a pro staffer. I would simply go, and then that turned into seminars that I was doing because I was doing all my elk hunting on public land at that time. And so I was utilizing the Primos videos to show people how the techniques, because I was using their techniques, because I was using it on public land. And so combined with that, and then Warren and Easton got to start going with me to all these different events and going to the shows. Now I was going to do them. And so we were traveling quite a bit on the weekends. And I just remember one day driving down the road in Montana thinking, I'm getting paid to do this. You got $75 a day. That's what you got paid. And
it was also 2000?
2003, 2004,
okay.
But, is when I started.
Yeah, so there was a little bit more weight to it. Not that that's a ton of money, but
yeah,
back then it was more
it was
than
something.
now.
Yeah, on a 3-day weekend, you make $225, and all your hotel and your food was covered during the weekend while you were there.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was one of those things, though, that like what Lewis just said, our family's kind of known as bow hunters. Yeah. Even back then, everyone knew when we walked into the building at one of those trade shows who you two were. Now, first they knew you as the kids that would catch all the trout in the pond before anyone else got to fish it.
Oops.
I'm not apologizing for that.
So many kids probably had such an awful day because of us. That's awful.
But that was my introduction there, and then that led to, they called me one day and said, hey, can you call on one of the hunts? And so I was introduced to the video team, and I went down to Wyoming and then got to go to the CA ranch and I did not hunt. I was actually just a caller there, but quite impressive, pretty unreal to see where, to go from hunting public ground where I would tell people if I could call in 10 bulls in a season, that was the whole goal. If you could call in 10, you would end up with one good shot. You needed 10. Well, I remember calling Mom after this, that we'd hunted day and morning, and then it was the next morning, and Jim killed. And I called her so I'd been a day and a half into that, and I'd called 22 bulls in. That's the difference of, when you're hunting private ground that's good ground, that they maintained it and the herd was good.
Best ground.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that's not even a normal place. So, but anyhow, so that was the start. And then, I don't know, it just kind of grew from there. We started filming and then the other part was, I guess, when you guys were little. So just like Lewis, I lost my brother when I was a kid. I mean, when I was 20. I was a little older, but my brother was a little older than me. So more than being a brother that hunted like that, he was my mentor when it came to hunting. My dad hunted, but my dad was not the one that introduced me to it. He didn't teach me everything. My brother did. And so when my brother died, it was, I ain't going to lie, it was like devastating. And so it put me in a whole new world of like, well, how do I do this? I had to really learn a lot of this on my own. So I promised myself that when I had my own kids, because I wanted kids for sure, that I was going to make sure that I spent every moment that I could teaching them what I love to do. That's something that I was good at, and I was going to be there as much as I possibly could. And hunting was something that had continued to grow in my life. So when you guys came along, naturally, I mean, we have the video and stuff. You guys have seen it in the raised hunting shows where these guys are in backpacks with us shooting a bow. I think we have video of both of you guys at 2 years old with a bow in your hand, shooting a bow at a target. And so it was a natural progression for you guys to be a part of it. The video part of it was I wanted to capture it, not hunting at the time. It was trying to capture you guys growing up. And then what we were doing was hunting, so we took the camera with us. And so next thing we know, we have this huge library. I think up until you're probably 25 or 26 maybe before you killed anything that was not filmed. It was a long time.
Trying to think of what I killed that wasn't on film.
A doe. I remember you went out and shot a doe one time and didn't film it.
It was probably
maybe it was 22.
I think I was in high school still.
Was it?
So I think I was like 18 or something.
Wasn't that turkey?
What turkey?
That you fell asleep, woke up, here he was.
No, that was like 20, I think.
And then you've done, but I mean, I would 90%.
But of the,
I've only had 3 or 4 that I didn't film.
Right.
Well, that's me too. I mean,
yeah, we're both.
There's
now questionable videos. He has a lot of questionable. Videos.
Like what?
Actually, that's not true because somebody's always filming him.
Yeah, like
you
what?
just tend to have a hairy trigger.
Yeah, no,
you on him?
Warren will give you the are you on him, but
not anymore. He won't.
But followed by the are you on him? Thunk. Like there is not a wait for an answer period. There is a are you on him as he pulls through.
One of the best freaking examples of that is the buck you killed in like 14 or 15 bully. When I'm filming him, I got in such a screwed up position because we were in one of those like 2 or 3 different clusters of trees, and this buck is coming in, and it was the deer we were looking for and everything, and I'm freaking out because we're hunting Iowa, and that was not normal to see that kind of deer, and I knew that if I did not start yelling because I had to switch right when Warren was getting a full draw, and you can hear in the video, I'm like, wait, and I'm freaking out because I knew that if I didn't say anything, that arrow was flying quick.
It's probably flying anyways. I tell these guys, you better be on it because I'm shooting. Yeah, it's your job to get it.
So
he means it.
But so fast forwarding, the way this all started for us was actually I retired from the fire department in 2008. I had a couple people, including my wife. Another big one was David Mitchell, was on me about what are you going to do after retirement? Because I retired pretty early, pretty young, into my 40s. And so anyhow, these guys were like, why don't you do something in the outdoor industry? And then that's kind of when we started going through all the footage and looking to see what we had, to see what we could do with it. And Warren, I had him going through, this is tapes. And we had dumped the
Cassette
tapes to their mini DV tapes. And he comes to me one day and says, how many kills did you think we had, Dad? And I said, I don't know, 20 or 30 probably at least. And he said, how about 128? And I was like, 128? Where did we get that many kills? And he says, right here. And he has a list of them. Now, some of them we counted them if we missed.
Yeah.
Like they came in, you shot at it, but you should have killed it. We counted, but I mean, we're just saying that was an encounter that we counted.
It was over 100 kills for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I was like, wow, we got a lot more than I thought. And so we tried to do something that no one else was doing at the time, was not go national. We went with I tried to put something together because I'm also not an editor. I'm not very good at it. And so I was like, how do I put all this stuff together? I knew in my mind what I wanted it to look like, but I didn't know how to work the keys. So we came out with Above the Rest, which was a local or a regional show in Montana. And if anyone wants to Google it and go find it, it's horrible. It was absolutely the worst thing ever. But it's one of those things that you learn from, you know.
You definitely screwed up on the name too.
Well, the name came because we were thinking about opening an archery shop.
And an arrow sits above the rest.
Exactly. That's where it was.
A lot of people took that as we were saying we were above the rest.
Right.
We did not think of that.
That was not the intention at all. So anyhow, we tried that for a year. It didn't work. We also lived in a very remote part of Montana at this point, like really bad, like no internet. I still remember the day we climbed up on the roof with a booster. And when we turned on the booster, phones started going off and everything because we didn't have cell service.
Still had to sit on the safe to get a text through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we moved from Montana to Iowa. When we moved to Iowa, we said, I told Karen, I said, I now have a little more time. I now understand whitetails are more prevalent here. That's a big one for TV shows. Let's take one more run at this, but I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to try to find an editor that I can work with that really knows what's going on. And I ended up meeting a gentleman named Adam and Modern Legacy Productions, showed him what we had. He showed me what kind of work he had done. And I told Karen, I said, I think we might have found a good connection here. Put the two of us together. And it took him like 6 months to put the first episode together. And then all four of us went up to watch it at what we thought was going to his office. I'd never been to his office. I'd just given him footage. His office ended up being the end of his bed downstairs of his parents' house, and I'm like, what the heck have I gotten into? But he had like a 60 or 70 inch screen. It was a huge television. So all four of us are sitting there and he starts playing something that none of us have ever seen. And it was basically the first episode of Raised Hunting. And when it was done, I look over at Mom and she's got tears streaming down her face and she's like, this is unbelievable. We got something here. And so we took that to the network and they ended up telling us, yeah, we'd like to air this. And that was on the Outdoor Channel. And so that would have been 2013. And it took us a year to get the episodes ready. We had now I'm learning. So to answer all your guys' questions, the process there is you pay the networks an amount of money per episode. And then whatever that, if it's $1,000 per episode, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm going to make it easy for money purposes so that we can do a quick math. And you were doing 13 episodes, that'd be $13,000. Now you turn around and you go to sponsors and say, hey, would you guys be willing to sponsor our show? And then you take that money and apply it to pay your bills for the airtime. And you got to do that when nobody knows who you are and no one knows you don't have any ratings. You have no idea whether that show is going to do well or not or anything like that. Things have changed so much now that maybe there's still people going new to television, but YouTube, all these other different places where people can find television or find video content, I don't think it's done that way anymore. Or not nearly to that.
The Outdoor Channel will not be probably around very much longer. So that one is not your streaming platforms are much more prevalent now. Right. Especially like with Outdoor America, you can get onto something like that where it goes to tons of different streaming places. Yep. And then cable TV is also like tanking like no other. But go on.
But yet there's more content being consumed than ever. Yep. It's just there's also a lot more content producers, whether they're professional, whether they're semi-professional, whether they're doing it part-time or whatever. There's all kinds, and there's so many places to acquire the video, to, like you just said, you could go to YouTube, you can watch shorts on YouTube, you can watch stuff on reels that people put on their website and then throw it on social media. I mean, I've seen that now. I didn't know that you could even do that till the other day. I was like, someone had loaded an entire episode of theirs on social media. I don't know if anyone's watching it, but you could watch 20-some minutes worth of if you wanted to. I guess there's no limit to what you want to put on there.
They change them every once in a while. I think one of the big things that I always, because we get that question at shows all the time too, like when we're at trade shows, and my number one thing that I tell anybody is, number one, now more than ever, you better freaking sit down, write some plans out as to what makes you different, because there is abundance of different guys out there that are, and it's not a bad thing, but it is flooded like no other now, because it is so easy to get your stuff out there and have a YouTube channel or this, that, and the other. So you better have something that sets you apart from the rest of everybody else. So that would be number one. And number two, I think that for the guys that are going into it, you should try to structure it without sponsors. And the reason I say that is because if you are going to work with certain ones, I think that's great. But be picky and be very strict on what you'd be okay with doing. Because in all reality, what you just did in the first step of figuring out what's different about what you're doing, that gets set to the side if you start taking on sponsor after sponsor after sponsor. Because now what you set you apart, you're not going to be able to do what you wanted to do, because you have 17 different companies telling you that you need to do this, that, and the other. So my advice is, don't fall into it to where you're constrained by all the sponsors. If you want to get some, that's great. Make sure it's something that you 100% do believe in, and are willing to work with them, and they maybe get an idea of how they operate with people that they sponsor and stuff too. So those are the two biggest things I see people struggling with. Is one, they don't ever set themselves apart or have something different, and two, they think that you got to do it like everybody else has done it in years past. And I think that one of the biggest changes is going away from sponsors, and I think that's a good thing. I think, guys, there are other avenues to make money. It just may be a little more difficult. Some instances might be easier than.
Well, I think that's something that
get sponsors.
I think that's the number one thing that people need to understand, is that if you're going into the outdoor industry, depending on what you're going to do, if you're going to, because you can go into the outdoor industry and become a rep. Reps make pretty good money.
Well,
and
what was the question? Was the question, how do I get into the outdoor industry, or is the question, how did we get into the outdoor industry?
How does he and how did we?
He wants into it?
Yes.
Or he wants
That's what all these people are asking, is how do they get into it?
Okay.
Like we did. You know, so I'm assuming that they're talking more video. And all I'm using the rep part is as a reference, because when I'm saying, some reps, I think, and I don't know if they're still making it, but I would think some of them are making six figures. Because what's going on is there's not as many reps. They got bigger areas. They don't travel as much anymore. And when I'm talking about a rep, is I'm talking about working for.
Let's start with one category, because I'm not this person and I'm confused.
Okay.
Okay, so let's, are we talking to somebody who, I want to get into the outdoor space and I want to be an outdoor creator? Or are we talking to somebody who, I want to be in the hunting industry, period?
No.
I don't care what I'm doing. I don't care.
No, nobody's asked
creator.
that.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm
I've
using
seen people ask that.
But I'm using the rep thing as a baseline, because if you got into something like that, so that comes with a 401k possibly. You're working for a company and you're repping, you're selling bows or arrows or trail cameras to retail shops, and you carry all these lines. But my point is that there's a career there, or a good job, a good functioning job.
That has nothing to do with a video creator, though.
No, when we get to the video creator, you can forget all that. Okay, everything that you're doing, you have to create yourself. You don't have a 401k, you don't have a medical plan, you are an entrepreneur that is doing this on your own. And the other thing is I would tell you that you're going to have to bring in a heck of a lot more money from sponsors or your other avenues to pay all of your bills, that even if you bring in a couple $100,000, you may think, oh boy, I got a lot of money here. You spend it all. I mean, it doesn't take very long. So you got to really understand the dollars. What do you want to make? If you're wanting to provide for a family and things like that and be a content creator, you're probably looking at like 2 to 3% of what you see on television or on YouTube or something like that. 2 or 3% are making enough to do that. The rest of them are doing it part-time or doing it to, they've got another main gig. They might be you see a lot of guys that are in real estate and things like that because it affords them time, and then they're doing something like this. Or you can use it to work with sponsors, and it accentuates your other career, meaning you got.
Well, let's talk about the sponsors first.
Okay.
Because I think that for somebody else right now who wants to try to get into the outdoor space as a content creator, and you need to be really realistic about this. Your odds of being able to go to a sponsor and get them to pay you any notable amount of cash is almost zero.
Yep.
Okay, because you're going to have to, if you've got, and I'm not saying it's anything against that or anything, but if you got 1,000 followers and you don't have any kind of content that you can be able to show as getting humongous numbers, you're not going to be able to get a brand to pay you for that, because there's no way that they're going to be able to get a return on their investment.
They need to recoup their money.
Right. And so I think it's also worth noting that the way the TV space worked before, the reason that I think that you still kind of speak in that way is that like you could then go to the sponsors, is because traditionally that's how it was on TV. Even you could go start a show, then you try to go find sponsors. And the reason that worked is because the only advertising channels was TV, radio, newspaper. And so they had to buy that ad space regardless. No matter what, they had to go and they had to buy that ad space. There wasn't so many digital options for them to do that. So whether your show sucked or whether it was great, they still weren't going to completely lose their ass. See what I'm saying? Because they had to buy that ad space. So for them, it was much less of a risk. Now, they're taking a ton of risk on you if you have no reach. And so I think you need to be, to me personally, if I had no idea on this and I was going to try to get into monetizing and creating video content, and I wanted to make even just $60,000 a year, I'd be really scared about trying to do that. Just to be like 100% honest, like to try to even make $60,000 now, I think, as one or two guys coming in and doing that, I think is going to be a lot more difficult than what you may think.
Well, the other thing that makes it extremely difficult is what I explained earlier about setting yourself apart. Is there is so many other guys in the industry, and a lot of what we're going to probably refer to here is probably not the most positive we could probably put it, but there is a lot of other dudes doing the same thing that we are all doing, or you're trying to do, or whatever it is, which also means that there is a lot more people trying to get sponsors. And then that also means that the sponsors are pretty freaking cheap most of the time as far as spending money on advertisement. And rightfully so, because the vast majority of people that reach out to want to be sponsored are accepting product for sponsorship. And they'll exclusively use this, that, or whatever. Well, in all reality, product doesn't pay bills. We all know that. But the issue is that when a huge company, I don't even know what to use here.
I wouldn't use any names.
Yeah, I mean,
I would just
take one of the biggest companies in the industry you can think of. When they have 100 dudes or more reaching out asking to sponsor them and everything, okay, they could either pay $10,000 to Joe Schmo over here because he's got a good following and hope that they get a return, or they could say, okay, we'll take on these 20 over here because all they're asking for is a discount on product. So we get to cover our costs and our product, send them that, and they're still advertising for us.
20. They'll take way more.
I'm saying that I'm just doing small numbers. I'm just showing the difference. And so in all reality, this could change if everybody would actually band together and think about it normally. And the fact of don't be a cheapskate, value yourself. Like, if everybody would hold themselves to accountable in the fact that if I'm going to have a sponsor, they're going to pay me for what I'm worth, what my viewers are worth, and I'm going to protect my viewers because I'm not just going to give them a bunch of crap. just because I get free stuff, and I'm going to require it to be paid for my time and for my advertisement. If everybody in the industry would do that, then you'd probably start seeing people making a lot more money in the industry because the sponsors would have to be paying for something instead of just getting everything for free.
But at the same time, the sponsors would limit. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They're going to limit how many people they spend with because they're going to find the ones that
also means you better be the good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, but at the same time, the sponsor is actually going to be getting something in return.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
They got to move product.
Sure,
That's what
I'm saying. First off, is if you want somebody to sponsor you, you need to make sure that you have something to sponsor.
Yeah, that's
meaning that
that's
you have
setting it different and having a following.
Yeah, like you got to. I mean, just to give people an example of the numbers that we're talking, I know last year on just one of our platforms, we had over 50 million impressions. Okay, so if you have one post that goes what you consider viral and you get 50,000 views on it, don't be thinking that you're now going to be able to go and monetize that. And then if you're looking at YouTube and you're like, well, I'll be able to monetize through YouTube, I think our CPMs is like $3 or something, like $4. So YouTube, like the amount of views you got to get on YouTube to make an amount that you can live off of is a lot. I mean, you're going to have a ton of views.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistently, which is why you see guys like the Hunting Public and some of these other guys where they're putting out videos constantly because they got to be able to keep those CPMs up. Which and that's where I think that people also, for a while there, where TV totally screwed everything up because it did make it where everybody hated the TV guys.
But everybody watched them.
Well, they hated every TV guy because they were saying all they do is they push stuff and they push stuff and they push stuff. And I'm not saying that they were wrong. However, the network, by having a model where you had to buy the airtime from them and it wasn't cheap,
which is not other channels besides
no other
the
network does
industry.
That. There's no other network in the entire U.S. that does that. So other than the Outdoor Channel, and then only that.
That's not true.
There is some
Sportsman's Channel does it. So does Pursuit Channel.
And
the outdoor genre.
Industry.
Okay, the outdoor space. Well, they also would sell against you. So keep that in mind, too, if you want to go on TV. That now the Outdoor Channel would go and they would take your airspace and they would sell. They would say, hey, don't buy it from these guys because we'll sell it to you cheaper. So that is another issue that you had where all of a sudden, yes, you guys got stuff that was super commercialized because Fred needed to feed his family. So he had to go to another bow sponsor that was willing to pay him money because he was getting undercut everywhere else, which led to a terrible viewing experience for the end user, which is where I think digital is a great thing because it's cleaned that up a lot. Now you have a little bit of a
influx,
an ocean of it, but at the same time, at least it's not. You can vet what you want, I guess, to some extent. But I do think monetizing it now is going to be extremely challenging. And I could be wrong. Maybe other people have found other ways to be able to monetize that. But I think that being able to monetize it in the same way that you used to is going to be a very tall task because the great thing that you had with TV, it was also a bad thing for a lot of people, but you had a barrier of entry, a very high barrier of entry. Yeah. So now instead of you having to compete against everybody with an iPhone that hunts, you only had to compete against 300 other shows.
Yeah.
So.
But okay, so that's talking a little bit about the money, about the behind the scenes side, and it is difficult. But at the same time, it was doable back then. And as we progressed on, the same model just doesn't work near as well. It does. I mean, it
doesn't
just
work at all.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. But there was a time before we were in it, even before I was in it, when that was the way to go. You know, that was the model that people were using. Just like back when guys were making VHS tapes, they were making a killing. And a lot of people won't even remember that. But VHS tapes, they were selling them for $50, $60 a pop. And they were you're talking about a huge margin because they could create one for $2 or $1.
Well, let's give people some viable things. Then.
Okay, so here's the other side of it, though, the part that what it does to your hunting. Because it affects your hunting for sure. And I think and in my opinion, it's positive and negative. There's both. Because it definitely took us to some places that we probably wouldn't have gone. by having the opportunity that we were going to film stuff, and that's what we were doing at that point. When raised hunting came along, I was doing it. You guys were still in school or just out of school. I was doing it as a full-time. This was what I was doing. And so there was still a lot of hunts and things like that, going bear hunting in Canada every year, going Wyoming to antelope hunt, going on elk hunts every year, or even couple elk hunts. I wouldn't have probably done that had we not had something to do that for. So it did help in that, and it allowed us to do things like that for sure. But at the same time, I want people to understand that when you commit to something like this, if you're truly committed to it, then that means that when it's storming, you got a 5-day hunt and it's raining or it's cold or the wind is blowing, you're getting your butt up and you're getting in a tree stand or you're getting in a ground blind. The only thing that would slow us down was the equipment. But other than that, we had to film. You had to hit a deadline. Now, if you're doing something on YouTube where you're putting stuff out, maybe you don't have to do that as much. But you still have a commitment. If you're like what we're talking about, some of these companies that are doing well on the digital platforms, they produce a lot of content. It's content constantly.
There's a reason you see a lot of them with groups of guys,
yes,
not just
and that's where I was going, was that look at doing something like this not as you're solely on your own or you and a buddy. Look at maybe working with some other people and saying, hey, how do we compile something here that we can all work together on?
Yeah. Well, I think that people just have a few realistic expectations. One, I think that's one of them, that you need to understand it's not going to be just hunting and filming stuff that you want. And now you're going to add a whole element to it that you may not learn you don't like, meaning that now you have a business. And it is certain income is going to be reliant upon certain things hunting-wise, and you're going to take what you love to do, and you're creating it into work in some aspect. There's been parts of the filming before that I hate, and these guys would attest to it. Certain parts of it I did not like. I like getting the shot and walking up to them, and I'm also that viewer. Like, that's all I watch. If I watch any YouTube video, I don't watch the whole thing. Doesn't matter how well they produced it. I go to right before the shot, and I watch the shot, and I'm like, good shot, bad shot, miss. Then I go right to where they go and get it, and I watch that, and I'm on to the next one.
You have so many different viewers, because you ain't catching me doing that. You ain't catching me even watching
the shots.
Terribly produced something. Like, I won't even get up 10, 15 seconds in. It better be freaking put together really well and have some form of keeping me focused. And you have total polar opposites. There's so many but you got to appeal to everybody. You got to try to appeal to the most amount of people possible. The Warrens, the Eastons, and then the Davids. Because I think all three of us, what we like to watch is probably pretty relative to what the entire everybody watching is.
Well, this might be the biggest cat out of the bag, I guess, or something like that. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't watch either one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch TV. I don't watch outdoor television. If I watch anything, it's 35, 40 minutes at night for Mom and I watch a movie or something, or part of a movie, or like a series, and that's it. I don't take time to, I go to a lot of other guys' houses and stuff like that, and on a weekend they'll have the Outdoor Channel on or ESPN on or something like that. And a lot of times it's running in the background, no one's really watching. I've never been that guy. I've never been the one to sit down and watch TV for a long time.
You watch tapes.
No, I used to.
Used to. I watch tapes. Now that's what I'm saying is it just progressed in my life. When I was your guys' age, maybe a little younger, I was watching to learn. I mean, that was because there was no internet. So you watched mine was VHS era. You put that thing in, and I played those freaking tapes until they broke.
Yeah. That's like when I was a kid. I watched Outdoor Channel a lot.
Yeah, I don't understand how you could do that.
Oh, I loved Thursday. Because Thursday was the all
bow
hunting day.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't get through a single episode.
But let's give some people some more tangible. So, to get into the outdoor industry, if you're going to get into a pro staff or something like that, I would recommend that you are, as Easton said before, you're really picky on the brand and the company that you choose to part with. Primos is a great example at that time. they were super, super thorough. So they weren't just letting anybody on there. And there's companies in the outdoor space that's their sales channel is
pro staff.
They're pro staffers, and they'll tell you, hey, we'll give you a 10% discount or 15%
right.
discount, and they'll get as many as they can. That company probably isn't.
They're not going to do as much for you.
They're not necessarily concerned about you being a part of their team as they may be looking at you as a sale. I guess I don't know how else to put that.
Like a pyramid scheme.
Kind of, but I mean it's a sales channel for them.
Yeah.
If we were going to have, we've talked about doing it, we just haven't gotten to a place where we can actually build it out, because I think we'd want to do it more like Primos. If we're going to make people part of our team, like they're going to be, we're not looking at making them a sales channel.
We don't want
they're
thousands.
A part of what,
yeah, we want 10, right? And I'm just using a number.
Yeah, the people
10
that most
guys that really truly believe in what we believe in, or guys and gals, I mean, that are just like us.
Yeah.
And that we can count on, and they help do the things that you can't do because you just have so many things going on.
Right. But so I would tell you that be really picky, and if you find one, then provide more value to them than they've ever gotten from any pro staffer or anybody else ever, and they'll be mind blown, because the chances of somebody else that's been doing that to them is close to slim to none, and that could open up a job opportunity to you.
Absolutely.
Now you need to be aware that job opportunity is probably not going to be, Frank, we want you to go hunt as much as you can and shoot as many deer as you can on video. That's probably not what it's going to entail. It's probably going to be a real job still. They may give you a little more time to go hunting or film some stuff related to hunting or something like that, but it's probably still going to be a real job. So that would be a way to do it. Trying to differentiate yourself and being able to help people or bring them value in some way that is valuable to them. The other thing I would tell you is don't concern yourself all that much about what you like. What you like really doesn't matter. It's what everybody else likes. So if you are only posting stuff that, man, I really like this, or I think this is really cool, or this is gonna, people are really gonna like this, and then you post that over and over and over and over, and nobody likes it, they don't like it, and it ain't about what you like. It's about what they like. And so and I see guys that do that a lot, where you've got to be taking into consideration what it is your viewer wants you to be talking about, or that you. The other thing too, I think, is one of the biggest ones, is that you better have a reason for somebody to listen to you. So if you've killed 1 or 2 animals, do not go on social or have a podcast or anything else telling everyone else how to hunt. Okay? If you do that, you're an idiot. And I'm going to save you the time right now. You're just dumb. Now, if you have killed 1 or 2 animals and you want to bring people along on the journey as you learn to hunt, totally different angle. I'm back. I'm behind you, and you're probably going to relate to a lot of other people. But don't try to think that you have to be something you're not to get people to pay attention to you, because chances are they know more than you, and they're going to know it right away, and they're going to laugh at you, and it's never going to get anywhere. So,
and then you could even get to the point where you do have a lot of experience, still get laughed at.
Yeah, that happens.
I get roasted on social all the time.
Well, we have, I mean, and I guess the part that I would add to that is try to find companies, and you may, if you're new to this, you may or may not get to pick your companies. You'll feel like you don't get a choice because there's only a handful that are even talking to you or things like that. But my point would be is I think the number one thing is to see if what this company is offering, if you're looking at partnering or if you're looking at doing it on yourself, ask them and ask yourself, why am I doing this? You need to know why you're doing it. And I can tell you right now, the only reason that David Holder is sitting here and that raised hunting exists is because I wanted people to not have to struggle like I did. And I don't look at that and say that it was a bad thing that I struggled, but I had to basically teach myself to elk hunt. I taught myself to bow hunt for deer because as I was getting to the age, I was 20 years old. I started hunting when I was 16, started bow hunting when I was 16. And was just starting to really get involved is when my brother passed away. And so I didn't, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., of all places to try to learn how to be a hunter. It wasn't a good place to do it. You couldn't go to an archery shop and really I have one kid's dad, that Rob Banks' dad. He kind of pulled me in and showed me the ropes and kind of gave me that. That always stuck with me, that I want to be able to do that for other people. And that's where Raised at Full Draw came from. That's where the women's side has come from. I love the fact that you guys send us videos and you send us not just stories about things like what Lewis did, but the people that write in and say, man, I listen to and sometimes it's like we think we're teaching them about a rub tree or about our scents. And yet they're saying, oh, I picked up on that you go in with the wind in your face. I never knew that. And all of a sudden they're writing us something saying, hey, man, it changed my whole hunting style. I'm actually getting close to animals. I've killed an animal. I'm hunting with my brother again. I'm hunting with my uncle. It has turned into something way more than I ever imagined that it could. But the whole basis that Raised Hunting started in any genre, and I think we've carried it into our scents and into our knocks and into everything else, is we want other people to experience what we're experiencing and experience it in a way that they can enjoy it like we do. And so we're trying to help do that. And that's the only reason behind it. I mean, if you're going into this going, nope, I want to see if I can make X amount of dollars, probably not going to go over very well with everyone. If you're going into it saying, I want to see if I can kill the 28 in the United States with my bow, and you need a TV show to help fund that, probably not going to go very well.
Yeah, if you're looking to get into the hunting space to make money, and when I say money, like you want to make big boy money, 6 figures plus, you're wrong space. I'm telling you, go anywhere else. It is not the industry to go into if you're wanting to create a cash cow. Like if that is important to you in building a business, that, hey, I want to be able to make 2, 3, 4, 500K a year or whatever it is, the hunting industry would be like the last place I would tell you. I'm sure there's guys that have done it, absolutely.
More so in companies versus TV, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and in companies, it's still going to be that's...
It's no different.
I mean, there's a lot of money in the hunting
industry. It's no different,
just
though, than like UFC or MIA, all these different.
Except for the market size.
No, what I'm saying, though, is only like there's all these really good fighters, but only a few make it to be great.
Yeah.
That you actually know and remember, and this is the dude. And the thing is, look how much work that guys that don't make it put in. I mean, and you do the same thing in hunting. So we're not telling you it can't be done. Warren's right. The chances are very minimal. It's not a very lucrative, I don't know what you call it, a genre or a
market.
Market, I guess, but then again, if you're going and doing something you love every day, you're getting to go hunting, and that's what you're in it for, and you don't need to make X amount of dollars. It's just you, or maybe you and your wife, and she works too, and between the two of you got a cool income, and man, it can be the greatest thing ever. You know, there's different, but just, I agree with you. Know what you're getting into. Don't let people fool you.
Well, and that's I'm sure people probably already know this too, but like all your guys buying your governor tags and everything, they don't make their money in the hunting industry. Jimmy John's or oil or banks or all these other things that they have their money in, which they're even 1% of the 1%, but majority of them aren't making their money straight from the hunting industry.
Correct. What else do we need to, I mean, there's so many other things you could go into. We didn't talk about like how we got into writing the scripts and all that kind of stuff. We can do that some other time if we even want to go into that, but just wanted to at least answer his question, you know, that how would you, and I agree right now, the biggest thing that I would tell you, if you are seriously wanting to get into doing something, get a camera, start filming some stuff. The number one, I can tell you what happens with us is people send in, say, hey, I'd like to work with you guys as a pro staffer or whatever now, and they have nothing for us to look at to see whether or not they know what they're doing filming wise. One of the first things that we do is go look at their social platforms to see what kind of content do they have out there, how many people do they have following, are we going to get our money back? That's what you got to remember, and that's where we start. So that's where you have to start.
As well as this one drives me nuts is they haven't used what you sell. Like they're reaching out asking, I would love to get in, or I'd love to try your, for instance, Raise Scents and work with you guys on a sponsorship level or something. That if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but I'm not accepting that because I'm not going to send you the product for you to test it out. That's one thing, like if we work with something else or whatever. But if you reach out to us,
especially when we got all these guys that support us, and buy stunts.
You've never touched the scents or anything. That tells me right there that you're not looking to be helpful to our brand. You're just looking for free product.
Right.
So that's another big no-no.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Or are we good there?
I think wacky fact.
No. What would you do? We got to do this. What would you do?
Dude, we're almost at 2 hours.
No. We didn't. Not
or
even
an hour and a half.
An hour. We didn't.
No, we started at
hour
3:30.
Hour 10, he just told us.
That's an hour 15.
This will be 5 minutes.
Okay.
We're doing this because it's too cool.
All right.
Okay, so someone wrote in to us, and again, and this time I'm not going to use, because this is an ongoing project that's going on, so I'm not going to use names, not going to use a state, not going to use anything other than two buddies. One invited another one to go hunt a place, and he said, okay, I'll go. Public land. And so the two of them go there. They do some scouting. As they do their scouting, the one that has been invited.
And the one that, okay, we need to name them.
Let's call him Bill.
Bill and Joe.
Okay, Bill and Joe. Bill
has been hunting the public land for a while.
Okay, and Bill invites Joe.
Yes.
Joe goes there. Joe says, okay, Bill goes one way, Joe goes the other. They decide Joe's doing his scouting. He comes up with a place to put a trail camera. He's like, this actually looks like there's some sign here. Throws a trail camera on. Lo and behold, he gets a picture of a deer. A 200-inch kind of deer. And the 200-inch kind of deer is pretty consistent, it sounds like they have a chance of killing this deer. So he tells his buddy, he tells Bill, hey, man, look at what I got. And Joe got, did I?
Yeah.
Well, that's because you just had me throw names out there. But Bill and Joe.
My fault.
So Bill and Joe are having the discussion. The one who brought the person there, Bill is like, hey, Joe, you killed the deer. You found him. You did everything there. And
Joe
is saying, Bill, no, you kill him because you invited me here. This was kind of your spot, so it's okay. The question that these guys asked was, how would you guys go about doing this?
You punch the other one in the head. Whoever stays awake the longest without getting knocked out, that's who gets to shoot the deer.
That was wrong.
No,
that was not a right answer. No, the answer, I believe, is what they are doing, which is the two of them are both saying, you kill him. Because there's always the chance that neither one kills him. So on public ground, other people might know of this deer.
What are you telling them to do to pick?
So what I would tell them to do is team up and take turns, which is what we've done on our properties here. When we have a big deer, and say, hey, if you want to go this time, I go this time, whether you do it morning, evening, or you flip-flop by days, or if it's public place and you think this deer's coming by a couple different spots, maybe you hunt two different spots. If you get into a situation where it's one stand and the two of you both are off this day and the wind is right to hunt that stand, either whoever's turn it is gets it, or you say, all right, today we flip a coin. There's no more fair way because you have no idea who's going to win the coin toss. Mm-hmm. And then you just go that way. So I'm really pulling for these guys. I hope they kill this deer because I think that they sound like two guys that are truly taking it the right way. It's not getting.
Why don't you flip it the other way and say that they both want to kill it, but they don't know who gets to rightfully shoot it or try to hunt it.
Well, I'm not. That's not the story you presented to me, so I'm giving.
It's the more likely one, though.
Yeah.
Well,
it would be
the guy that took you to the spot.
Yeah, he definitely gets first right of refusal. Yeah, that's unwritten rule. I think the one that has discovered the area, even if it's on your camera and he brought you there, he's at least gets the first go.
Well, here's the thing that I guess that if you go to that, it's even like you don't go back there unless he invites you again.
Yeah.
I know that it's public ground, but it's one of those things where if someone invites me to go somewhere hunting and it's public ground, it's still, they found it, they showed me. I'm not coming back here unless they tell me, hey, I'm moving away and I don't live here anymore. You go hunt it, which I've done for people because I've showed people and I've told them I'm not going to be here anymore, so take off. But at the same time, if they are going to be and you wanted to go back there and hunt, you let them know, okay, or is it okay? And you never take someone else. It's not about, well, he showed me and I'm going to show them and then they show. So that is not how that works.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready for your?
Yeah, I think I got one. The ancient Romans used a wet sponge on a stick instead of toilet paper.
Oh, I want to click X because that's disgusting. Oh, but that is interesting. I didn't know that one.
Just the thought process there.
Oh,
I'm going to use a wet sponge in it.
It would definitely clean it.
Ah, that's the only one I got though.
They had never heard of dude wipes.
Yeah.
Hey, they're against hunting.
They are?
I don't know. Everybody said anytime we say anything about some company that's not in the hunting space, we get chastised.
I don't know.
I just hunting. So
I just
assume
know
they all are.
I see their stuff all over.
I get so much crap for hey dudes. Everybody is like, why are you buying their shoes?
I know dude wipes are into football because they just delivered a whole bunch to one of them because one of the this is a
what did he had a
wacky
streak coming through his white pants?
So
you need some of these.
So the rookie got sent to the store to go buy more wipes. They ran out of wipes, I guess, at the practice field, and he accidentally bought Clorox wipes and brought them back. And dude wipes heard about it, so they took a van and drove a van to their. I don't remember which NFL team it was, but drove a van to them so they would have the proper stuff to wipe their butt.
Sounds like something somebody from the Chiefs would do.
Well,
coming from a Denver Bronco fan.
Screw the Chiefs.
All right, I got another one.
Okay.
Roman emperors would poison themselves every day. In ancient Rome, it became so common for wives to kill their husbands that from the end of the 1st century A.D., Roman emperors began adopting the practice of taking small amounts of poison daily in an attempt to improve the body's immune system to these deadly toxins.
That's smart. That is very smart.
You just got married, didn't you?
Yeah, but
you better start drinking poison.
I've been taking this shit for 32 years, man. I thought I taught you that a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, she's not Roman, so that's good.
All right.
Are we done? Is that your last wacky fact?
That's it.
All right, guys, we are out of here. We're going to dig some holes for some rub trees, watch some football, and be ready for next week's.
Oh, hey, Raised Hunting discussion group on Facebook. Go subscribe or click on that or whatever. I think that might be the best way for us to put out like the T-shirts and stuff that I want to start making for the podcast. So I don't know, unless we want to make a Raised Hunting podcast group. I don't know, but
we already have the discussion group. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Raised Hunting
discussion group.
Go follow that.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for following the Raised Hunting podcast. We appreciate you guys.
That was on Facebook.